What's up? So we had a discussion on Bhakti movement, so I thought I'll cover Sufism as well. So it is the contemporary of Bhakti movement. So let's get started. So we'll talk about what, when, and where related to Sufism. So in 8th century, in like when Islam was starting, there was great show of wealth in Islamic world. People started living very luxurious life. So some of them reacted and thought that we should live a life of simplicity and austerity. And around 10th century, like Islam flourished, and Turks emerged as a very powerful Islamic group. Now, the origin was from Middle East of the Sufism, and these were the Sufi people who wanted to live simple and austere life of austerity, and they came to India even before the establishment of Turkish rule. Uh, Now they came with some of the tribes, some of the invaders, and large group of Sufis came from Islamic nations, and they migrated to India for spreading the Islam. Now, Sufism is a term which is used for Islamic mysticism. Okay, and it is some similar related word is Sophia in Greece, which means wisdom. And Sufism they emphasized on soul and God, and they were organized into various silsila like Qadri silsila. There are a lot of silsilas, and we will talk about them. And they were not rigid, and they assimilated a lot of thoughts and practices from different sources like Vedant, Yoga, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism. So they took a lot of inspiration, and it was around 10th century they started with their literature and flourishment, and between 11th to 15th century, that is the time of Delhi Sultanate, they were like really it was the golden period for them. And Sufism is based on the concept of relationship between God and soul, as like one of them is beloved and the other is lover. So that is the relationship with they which they share in Sufism, and they like non-violence. This is the key principle of Sufi saints. Now here you can see the spread of like it started in Middle East, and as you can see then they went to India, North Africa, and Southeast Asia. So origin is Middle East. Now what is the origin? So it was the contemporary of Bhakti movement, as I was saying, and I've already covered Bhakti movement. There are different opinions regarding origin of Sufism. Like Safa word in Arabic, it means holy. So they were the holy people. They were like finding the relationship between soul and God. Sufa also means wool. Wool means un. Okay, and after Prophet Muhammad, people who propagated Islam they wore woolen clothes, so they started being called as Sufis. And third word which I was saying, Sophia means knowledge in Greek. So these are the like origin of the word Sufi. Now what are the main features? There are 12 orders, or they are silsilas. Okay, and they were all monotheistic. Monotheism means like believe in one god and one god only. Okay, no two gods. And this also influenced the Bhakti saints as well. Now it is Peer was the spiritual guide. So you have a faith in a spiritual guide. He is called as a Peer, and Sufism said that you surrender yourself to the God. So self surrender is the key aspect of Sufism, and the languages which they used were Arabic and Persian, and later Urdu. Okay, and it is more like Hindustani, and they were masters of devotional music and songs. Until today, you can like if you go to YouTube and write Sufi songs, you will get a lot of music. Then some terms which are asked in the exam. Peer here means sent. Okay. Murid are followers. Murid means followers. Khanka where is the place where Sufi saints live. So they can ask you that. And zikr. Zikr means like it's everybody knows in like zikr means when you take somebody's name. Okay. आपने मेरा जिक्र किया. So it means recitation of the name of the God. And tauba means repentance. Okay, that you'll not do this, like having extreme remorse and saying like I will not drink alcohol, मैंने तौबा कर लिया है alcohol से. So that is called as tauba. Now fana is a movie also. So fana means like if you merge with the Almighty, spiritual merging with the Almighty. Urs like you must have heard, like Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti in Ajmer, very very famous. So he is also called as Garib Nawaz, and like prime ministers and president of Pakistan, like all over. It's a very holy site for Muslims. So whenever their death anniversary is celebrated, so it's called as Urs. Sama means like musical gathering, and finally you have Malfuzat, which means collection of the sermons of a Sufi saint. So these are the keywords which they ask. Now, what are the 10 stages? The 10 stages into like if you have to unite yourself with the absolute God, you have to pass through these 10 stages. First is Tawbah, repentance, that you will not do sins. If you have done it, then you will remorse for them. Then Vara means abstinence, Zuhad means piety, Fagr means poverty. Sabr means patience. मेरे सब्र का इम्तहान मत लो. Shukr means gratitude. Shukriya. Khauf means fear. Raza means hope. Tawakkul means contentment. And finally, Raza means submission to divine will. That is, you have extreme love and yearning for God. And they had like two objectives. One is the own spiritual development, and second is the service to humanity, which is exactly what was preached in Bhakti movement as well. So why Sufism flourished so much? It flourished because like their faith was based on union of human soul with God through loving devotion, and they were separated from the other orthodoxy sects of Islam. And this was the one thing, that since they were separated from the orthodoxy or traditions, so everybody liked them. They also opposed idol worship because they were monotheistic, and they opposed rituals also, because poor people in any religion, they cannot afford these rituals. If they want to have salvation, they simply do not have the resources. Same thing happened with Buddhism, same thing happened with Jainism, and same thing happened with Bhakti movement as well. So if you make yourself accessible irrespective of caste, creed, money, social status, then you will grow like anything. And by their examples, by words and conduct, they set an ethical standard. And finally, they attempted to bridge the gulf between orthodoxy and devotion. So that is why Sufism flourished. Now they also spoke the languages of masses, as you might be knowing. Like Gautam Buddha also started speaking the languages of masses. So was Mahavir, and so was the Bhakti saints. So they too spoke the language of masses, and they gave momentum to linguistic unity. They imparted education. They were very broad-minded. They recognized that there is a truth in other faiths as well. They did not make any distinction between caste, and that's why a large number of followers, they also came from the lower Hindu caste as well, and they had a great interest in learning yoga. And Hindu yogis often used to visit the Sufi saints. So as long as your motive is clear, nobody minds it. Now, when you talk about Sufis in India, so the two, whenever you talk about, so they adopted Sama and Raqs, that is audition and dancing, as a mode of invocation of God. And Chisti and Suharawardis orders are the most famous in India. And Majlis Sama is a form of music which they propagated. And to Sufi, music was a means to an end, that is to get to the beloved, that is the God. And Sama, basically it accelerated their spiritual spirit, and they helped them in getting into ecstasy, that kind of an ecstatic mode. And practice of spiritual successorship was called as Piri Muridi. And those who entered into a particular fraternity of Sufi saints, they were called as Murid. Murid means follower or a disciple, and the Murid had to pledge absolute submission and devotion to his spiritual guide called as Pir. So these are the basics. Now let's talk about the most of the prominent silsilas or Sufi orders. First is the Chisti Silsila. Founder was Khwaja Moinuddin Chisti in Ajmer, and he came along with Muhammad Gauri. And the area of propagation was mainly in the North India, that is Delhi and Ajmer. And famous saints were Kutubuddin Bakhtiyar, Faruddin Jalaluddin Ganj Shakr. So his verses have been included in Adi Granth of Sikhism as well. Okay, so this Kilki and Fariduddin Ganj. He is popularly also called as Baba Farid. And they kept away from royal courts. They did not want to get into politics. They had a lot of yogic postures and breath control as well. So like Sufism was associated with yoga as well. Just remember that. Okay, don't get confused. Then you have Suharawardis. So it was founded by Sheikh Shihabuddin Suharawardi, and area of propagation was Punjab and Multan. And famous saints include Rukunuddin Abdullah Fat and Hamiduddin Nagori. And they accepted royal service as well. So as you can see, this is in Sindh, which is in present day Pakistan. Then you have Qadri Silsila. So founder was Sheikh Nizamatullah, and area of propagation was Sindh and Lahore. Famous saints include Nasiruddin Muhammad Jilani. So they can ask you these names: Qadri Silsila, Suharwardi Silsila, Chisti Silsila. So which of the following is not a Sufi Silsila? And fourth one is Naqshbandi Silsila. Just remember the names if you can't remember anything else. So area of propagation here was North India, as you can see it is in China also. And famous saint was Ubauddillah Arhar, and it is an orthodox sect. Then you have Rashniya order, and founder was Mia Bayezid Ansari, and area of influence was tribal areas of the northwest. And he also wrote a book called as Khairul Bayan. So it might be asked in the MCQs. Then you have Mahadawi, and founder was Mullah Muhammad Mehdi, and area of propagation was in Jaunpur. Basically principle was to oppose the orthodox Muslims. Then you have Qalandariya. So founder was Abu Wali Qalandar, and famous saints were Sidi Maula. So principle was to wandering monks were called as Darwish. So they can ask you what is the term which is used for wandering monks in medieval times. Answer is Darvesh. Then you have Shattariyya Silsila. Founder was Abdul Shattari, and area of propagation was Gujarat, Meerut. Famous saints were Shahpir, and chief principle was they claimed direct contact with God. And finally, you have the Rishi movement in Kashmir, and there was a Rishi movement in Kashmir, and Nuruddin and his disciple Nand Rishi and his disciples were called Rishis in Kashmir, and Rishi was a Sufi order in Kashmir, and despite that Shariat law allows one to eat meat, he became a vegetarian because he believed in non-violence. So these were the major things which are associated with Sufism. You don't need to know anything else. And thank you for watching this lesson. Have an awesome day.